Welcome back to part 2, reassembly of the 2020 Colt Python. Go ahead and start off by putting the plunger and spring back in that we took out, which is used to apply tension to the transfer bar. It's back in, just fits in easily. We're going to take this cylinder lock stud and place it in to where this roll pin that hangs out the side goes into this groove. Pretty easy. Transfer bar comes in and just lays in this channel that's cut down into the frame here. It sits in there. And on this, you will see that there is a little raised portion around this hole in it. What that does is it corresponds to a sort of counter bore on the trigger. So what we're going to do is when the trigger goes in, we're going to put it onto its stud, and then it has to line up with the transfer bar. And we can see that it does. When I move the trigger, the transfer bar also moves. That's what we want. Perfect. We're going to go back in with the hammer. Hammer goes in just like this. And you'll see that I had the trigger positioned to where it ended up right between the little single action notch and the double action lever foot of the hammer. We'll take that, set it forward to where it is in a decocked position. I'm going to take the hand and this arm next, and what's going to happen here is the arm is going to go in to its little pivot in the frame, and then we're going to get it to where it's sitting just about like that, and it's going to come down until it sits on that protrusion on the inside of the frame with the slot that's in it. At which point I'm going to take the hand and place it into the hole in the trigger here that also is the hole that corresponds to the transfer bar. So I'm going to set it right there. And I'm going to make sure that it is sitting all the way down to where it is flush, actually slightly below this area of the frame right here. Because what is possible to happen is if this bar here, this arm, is too low, the hand will sit on top of it and won't actually sit down all the way where it needs to be. So this is correct here, where this is a little bit below flush on this bit of the frame. We're going to take this little link here, put it onto the hammer, and angle it kind of upward like this, just about 45 degrees off of vertical. We'll take the main spring, and what I want to do here is pick it up with my snap ring pliers again in this orientation. It's going to go back in about like this. I'm going to grab it about midway up with my snap ring pliers. And I'm not going to tension it too much right now because I'm going to get that front end kind of starting on the hammer. Then I'm going to squeeze it, squeeze it, squeeze it, squeeze it until it fits in there just like that. It takes a little bit of technique, but I'm sure you can figure it out. It's not that difficult once you take a look at it and see what you need to do. Coming back with the slide plate. On the slide plate, you need to take your little zigzag spring here As far as I can tell, it is not directional in any way. You can just set it in there, nice and easy like that. You take the cylinder latch, and what you're going to need to do reassembling this is this little hole in the cylinder latch needs to end up on this pin coming off the side of that cylinder lock stud. So we'll put it on here, and then what we need to do is kind of, let me try not to block your view. What you kind of do is just line this up about right, push back on this until it is about even with the back of the little cylinder gap area here, the hole through the frame for the cylinder, and it'll just pop down in just like that. And to confirm function, what we're going to do is just pull back on the cylinder latch, and we can see that the stud in here is moving back and forth with the cylinder latch like it's supposed to. That's perfect. We're seeing that the frame and the slide, or the side plate, are lined up nice and flush. They're not rocking. There's no issues there. Everything is sitting like it's supposed to. I'm going to come in with the rear screw here. Going to spin counterclockwise until I hear it click, feel it click, and then I'm going to start coming back in clockwise. And that just lets you know that the threads are ready to be engaged, that you're not going to cross thread. We do the same thing with the front one. Put it in. I have not tightened these really tight. I'm really just getting them in kind of finger tight. Now that I've got the back one in, I'm going to snug this a little bit. Then I'm going to return to the rear screw and just snug it up a little bit more. You shouldn't feel any mushiness in these. They should come to a pretty hard stop. You're not, like, it shouldn't act like a wood screw or something where it has tension on it. It should go in nice and smoothly and just come to a stop. Putting the cylinder back in, we want to support the cylinder and just line up the crane with its slot there. When it gets all the way to the back, we'll just latch it in. It's important that you look here and ensure that this has actually made it all the way to the back and it's sitting fully into the frame. You can also look on the front edge here and feel that, and it should be a pretty close fit. I mean, you can tell there's a seam there, but it is not much at all, barely perceptible. So what's possible to happen is you get a little flake of unburnt powder or a piece of sand or something in here. It'll cause this cylinder and all to be sitting a little bit forward. It doesn't work right. So you have to make sure that's clean and sitting all the way flush to the back. I'm going to place the screw into the frame here with all of its parts, the plunger, the spring, and the screw. I'm spinning counterclockwise to get it lined up with the screwdriver. I'm not hearing a definite click on this one, so we'll just start going in with it gently. And this, again, you'll feel a little bit of that spring tension, but it should come to a nice hard stop. It shouldn't be mushy. You shouldn't be experiencing any tension midway through. Before we get the grips back on it, we'll do a quick function check. Cock's fine. Trigger feels normal. Cylinder locks upright. I don't feel any dragging. Let's try the sit double action here. Everything seems perfect. Fantastic. Let's go ahead and put the grips back on. Place this one here. And what I like to do is after I kind of get it started on, is then put this pin in. These are a very, very precise and kind of tight fit. Pull it back off a little bit. Try not to block the camera here. It goes in, and there's a spot where it will line up. I think that's starting pretty good. Try this one, see if we can get him to go on. Just squeeze a little bit. There it is. Very, very snug fit on the grips on this pistol. Very good. Come back in with the screw. Backspin. It clicks. And we will just snug it up a little bit. This should not be very tight. The grips are already very snug on their own. And don't need a lot of tension. It's a steel screw and brass, so don't over tighten it or you'll break something. So everything seems good. Hope that helped you. Thanks for watching.